Thank you for joining us today for our ETRAGE webinar series. We typically host different topics within the design and manufacturing industry twice a month, and you can find future webinars at etrage.com under events. Now, a few housekeeping items. First, everyone is muted. If you have a question, please use the Q&A icon. And if we're not able to answer your question during today's session, we will follow up with you afterwards. And finally, a recording will be available on our ETRAGE YouTube channel later this week. Right. So our agenda for this presentation will be, we'll do a quick introduction about who ETRAGE is, and then we'll talk about what's a PPAP or AS9102 FAI, and why is it needed, what does it entail, how ETRAGE FAIR for Creo provides a solution, and then what are the values and benefits you get from that. And finally, we'll dig into some FAQs and then any additional questions from the audience as well. So a quick introduction to who I am and who ETRAGE is. So first off, my name is Shaish Ambore. I'm a senior technical lead for CAD systems at ETRAGE. I've been working with PTC Windshield and also Creo products now for more than over 12 years. And my joy is, helping customers use CAD and PLM efficiently. In regards to ETRAGE, it's a software development company, that's global with over 20 years of experience in helping customers adopt PLM throughout the enterprise, ensuring that we can address any gaps in infrastructure to ensure, different stakeholders, whether it's engineering, manufacturing, inspection, quality, purchasing, service, etc., can have the data they need to take action throughout the entire enterprise. Our goal is to, enable, enterprise-wide PLM adoption through specialized software and services, to streamline integration. It can boost efficiency and ensure compliance, and ultimately, to, all of that in the service of delivering strategic value to our customers. Here's a, handful of our products and services that we offer. Anything from our custom, viewers and publishers to our quality module to many of our services that we wrap around that with, right? So whether it's training on Windshield or Creo topics to, Windshield custom app development, and also, customization services as well, right? And who are our customers? Who do we work with, right? So we work with, small, medium, or large companies, right, that design and manufacture products, right, who need a complete end-to-end digital thread of their product and engineering processes spread throughout the organization. All right, so that being said, we'll get into the meat of the presentation for the day. And so what is a PPAP or AS9102 FAI? So first off, first article inspection or FAI consists of a detailed verification and comparison of a product design or requirement versus results, right? So production run essentially. And a supplier needs to do a first article inspection. Usually it's due to industry requirements or regulatory requirements like AS9102, usually in the aerospace industry, or in the automotive industry, it's usually called a PPAP, right? Or sometimes it could be a customer also requires an FAI to be done before a manufacturing process begins, right? And usually, even though it's called first article inspection, it's usually not the first item off the it's not literally the first item off the assembly line. It's usually a random sample of the first production batch is taken, and so a few samples from that batch are taken, and then those are checked, right? Now, in this particular presentation, we'll be focusing on the characteristic accountability form of the FAI. So essentially the balloon drawing, right? Also, you can call that the form 3 of the FAI, right? And in this case over here, usually what customers will do is at this point, they'll take the CAD drawing, right, and start to balloon different dimensions on that drawing in order to identify them, to place them on form 3, and then eventually go check them against the manufactured version, right? And so usually then they'll go and place a balloon, and then an index to that. So this dimension is going to be number 1. This dimension over here, the 3 is going to be number 2, and then this other dimension here is going to be number 3, right? And then it's on and on like that, right? And as you can tell, it's number 1, it's very manual, very time consuming, and it can be error strewn, right? And this, again, as you can see on the screen, is a very simple part, right? And there are more complex parts with more than 5x as many dimensions and callouts relative to this. And those are nightmares to deal with, hand ballooning manually, right, one at a time. But the reality is you do need to balloon, right? And why you do that? Well, you need it because you want to end up at a report like this, right, for your form 3, where essentially you can document all the dimensions, right, on the drawing. And this is, again, a very high level 30,000 foot view. You can document all the dimensions on your drawing, right? You can document what their values currently are, right? Your inspection plan in terms of what device you're going to use to measure them, whether you're going to use fixed bed CMM, a portable CMM, or using calipers or hand tools or gauges or things like that, right? Also then specifying the nominal dimensions, right, based on design versus the actual dimensions based on how they're measured, right? And then what tolerance tables are what the tolerance tables that you're going to be checking against are, right? And then any additional information as well. So just on the right side of the screen over there, right? Now, ultimately, some of the challenges with filling this form out, right, are that number 1, right, you can have a lot of documentation errors or inaccurate or incomplete information, right? And a lot of these documentation errors, oftentimes can be due to human error, right, or mistakes in documenting the inspection results, right? Or you could have, again, poor communication between design and engineering, manufacturing personnel, and quality inspectors, right? And this can result in discrepancies between what's designed versus what's been checked, or just more time and effort in the checking process, right? I can't tell you how many times I've been in a manufacturing environment, in the quality room, and quality inspectors saying, hey, we, for example, we have CAD but it lives over in engineering, and we don't get that from engineering, and so we have to check the models without CAD, without nominals, and that then doubles or quadruples our inspection time and effort, right? Or again, some of the other challenges, right, with filling out this form are usually, for example, the complexity of the parts, right? Like I mentioned earlier, when you have bigger, more complex parts with many more features, even if it's aerospace components, right? Those could have easily into the hundreds of dimensions, right? And then it becomes way more complex to have to hand balloon each of those dimensions one by one, right? Now, that's where essentially we have a solution for that in ETRAGE FAIR for Creo, right? Now, ETRAGE FAIR for Creo is, number 1, it's a completely CAD embedded solution within Creo Parametric, right? That offers a very quick and easy way to create the first article inspection report, right? Almost automatically, right? Now, first thing you want to notice about that is that it's very, very quick, right? It's probably less than half a second for this drawing you see on the screen here, right? And it took about as much time to transition the slide, right? From what you saw to this over here, right? That's how quick it took, right? Now, in this case, you could say, well, from this slide over here, I'll step back quite a bit, right? So everything you see currently in this case is all ballooned, right? But zooming in to one of the individual views, like I just did earlier, you'll notice the balloons more clearly, right? You'll notice in this case that, 6 diameter dimension in the top right corner has a a tag of number 1 on that. The bottom left corner, the slot width of 1 inch over there has a tag of number 5 on that. That's ballooned on there, right? All the dimensions and all the GD&T and all the notes in this entire document have all been ballooned automatically, right? Within less than half a second. Now, in addition to that, again, once they're ballooned, right, it then pulls out this UI where you can then add additional information about inspection instruments, like I mentioned. You're using calipers to measure this, or CMM, or whatever it is, right? So you can add additional information about the inspection instruments, your tolerance tables, any dimensional importance, so any dimensions that are critical versus basic dimensions, right, and things like that. Now, all of this means that two things. Number one, human error in documenting inspection results is significantly reduced, right? And number two, again, the complexity of parts is alleviated, right? Because no matter how complex your model is, we grab anything and everything dimension-wise from that model and pull it into this report for you automatically. Right. So at this point, I'll pause right here, and we'll dive into a quick product demonstration. So we'll pull out Creo Parametric, and we'll show you right here. Now, in this case, this particular part happens to live in Windchill, right? So it's in my workspace already, so I'll open it from there. But the ETRAGE FAIR for Creo is a solution that can also work outside of Windchill as well. So you could have files, on your regular, desktop or local file directory or shared drive on a network, and you can still use it that way as well. Right? But in this case, this lives in Windchill. That's fine. I'll go ahead and open that from there. And so this is the particular drawing in this case, right? Now, in order to run FAIR on this, right, step 2, it's as simple as tools, right? A one-button click, right? And almost immediately it says it's done, right? The inspection report is created, right? And it pulls out this window over here, which was on my other screen. I just pulled it out over here to this screen right here, and you'll notice a few things on this window right here, right? So number one, you'll notice there's the header information, right? So everything about the file name, revision, PO number, supplier, all these kinds of information are things that you can fill in, right, manually. Or again, if these are parameters that already exist in CAD or PLM, right? These are parameters that we can automatically pull in and populate these fields as well, right? So again, that could reduce the possibility of human error in filling these out, right, and making sure that the report is more complete, right? And then the next thing you'll notice over here is at the bottom is that in the table there are many different columns where number one, there's a tag, right, and there's the tag numbers listed sequentially from 1 to 15, right? And then there's a view reference, right? So in this case, there's 1.1, 1.3, 1.4, right? And then a sheet number, dimension values, right? And then what the dimension type is, right? And essentially what it's doing, if I go ahead and minimize this for a moment, number one is it knows a sheet number. In this case, this is a drawing of one sheet, right? It tags each view, right? So in this case, I'll zoom in over here. You notice this view is view 1.1, right? This over here is view 1.2, right? This is 1.3 and 1.4, right? And on each particular view, it goes ahead and then tags each of the dimensions that you can see right here, right? So this dimension has a 1 tagged to it, right? This one has a 2 tagged to it, right? 4 tagged to it, right? So it does that, automatically, again, ensuring that nothing is duplicated in the tagging, right? And all the dimensions are tagged uniquely, right? So now what that means is, in addition to all of this, it also creates a PDF as well, right? And I'll go to the working directory here, the output directory of that file, and you'll notice there's a PDF that's created of that file as well, right? So all this, and this PDF is a PDF of the drawing, right? It's essentially the exact same drawing you see inside of Creo, right? So all this means is that the PDF plus this report can travel together essentially, right? And on any view of the drawing, if you want to know where is, dimension tag number 7, well, this shows right here. Number 7 is on view 1.3, right? It's on sheet number 1. The value is currently 0.5, and it's a diameter dimension, right? And so it makes it very easy to then go ahead and identify, view 1.3, sheet number 1, number 7, it's a diameter dimension of 1.5. It makes it of 0.5. It's easy to identify, dimensions, right? And where they are in the entire drawing, right? Again, doesn't matter if it's 15 dimensions or so, like in this case, or hundreds of dimensions, right? Number 2, you'll notice this creation happened incredibly quick, right? Again, less than half a second, right? And now all of this means now is if I want to go into this sheet over here, I can then go ahead and start to specify my my inspection routine and other criteria, right? And my tolerance tables, right? So I could say, okay, let's go select, for example, all my diameter dimensions, right? I can select all these guys, right? And I can say, I can pick a particular tolerance table that I want them to be checked against, right? We can also customize this list of tolerance tables as well, but in this case, I'll pick one as an example. Pick a tolerance table. You can also specify the inspection method, right? Do I want these to be measured, for example, with a portable ferro arm that we have, right? And then you can also specify, okay, are these, critical or basic dimensions, right? And so these are things you can also specify in this case for all of these dimensions as well, right? Other thing I'll highlight real quick as an example here is I'll go back to all the dimensions. You'll notice in this case, in this second to last column, that the fake column, there's a line item over here, tag number 11, that says it's fake, right? Well, what that is it's more of a quirk of Creo, right? Where essentially there's a way for a user in some cases to go in and manually fudge a dimension number, wherein the drawing and the model itself does not reflect that, right? And so in this particular example over here, the dimension value that it extracts over here is 2. But if I go into the drawing, right, for in this case for tag number 11, number 11 over here, it shows over here that the dimension is 1.5 is what is shown on the drawing, right? So again, this is a case where the user might have fudged dimensions, right, for whatever reason, right, and said, okay, this is 1.5 as shown in this case on the drawing, but the reality is the model does not reflect that, cannot build that, right? In reality, that distance there is 2, right? And what we're showing in Creo FAIR is we can catch that, and we can put in the actual dimension value as driven from the model, right? And say that is actually a 2, not a 1.5. And so that way your inspectors can check to what is actually driven from the model, right? And not to what may be fake or fudged, right? So again, that means much better data quality and much better FAI reports. Right. So that is an overview of Creo FAIR and how it works and how you can use that to help improve your inspection processes, right? And generating your FAI reports, right? So essentially, why does all this matter, right, in the grand scheme of things, right? Well, it matters, right, because number one, right, like I just showed over there, right, the final output of that report, where you have all those, in that UI, can be dumped into this particular inspection report over here, which again, when you then go ahead and measure this data, right? In some cases, if you have maybe a fixed bed CMM or portable CMMs where they're controlled by 3D metrology software, right? Like, for example, a FaroCam2 or PCDMUS by Hexagon or Polyworks, which is more software agnostic, right? All of those different kinds of measuring and inspection softwares that are now common in the quality room of many manufacturers. All of them, you can measure and check and inspect based off of all the dimensions that have been tagged inside of Creo FAIR, right? And you can set up your inspection routine in all those softwares to just measure based off of that inspection routine, right? And then when they all measure and store the data, you can export the data from all those softwares into Excel and then just copy paste into this report right here, right? So that way then the nominals that are extracted from the CAD by Creo FAIR and the actuals that are reported from the inspection softwares can all be just reflected on the same document. Again, eliminating human error or reducing human error and for example, handwriting each of the measurements one by one, for example. Right? And again, if there are certain specific measurement tools that you're using that are more manual, maybe you're using calipers for some particular measuring measures. Yes, we also do support that as well, right? A user can go in there and manually type in any particular measurements that they do take, right? With calipers, for example. But again, all of this, from a high level means that number one, right, you're reducing, human errors, right, which means that your PPAPs are of better quality and are more traceable, right? And also then that reduces, the possibility that your PPAPs are incomplete or inaccurate, right? And also the additional benefits are oftentimes that number one, your time constraints are alleviated, right? Because we go in there and Creo and we grab every dimension immediately, globally, and in very short order, display that for you here, and it's easy to then just grab a whole set of dimensions and then set up your FAI report. Right? Again, this also then means that you're able to comply, ensure regulatory compliance, right? Because essentially these are regulatory standards, right? That you're going against, right? But beyond the regulatory, it's very quick and easy for you to use, and it speeds up your process. Right? Now, this can live in Windchill, like I just showed earlier, right? And can be tracked as part of your lifecycle process, right? And then I should also then add in, our ETRAGE viewer and ETRAGE publisher, right? Products that we also have as well, which allows you to essentially publish, any matter of Windchill or PLM data, whether it's drawings or step files or even native, CAD models or packages or things like that, to different aspects of the organization that need to see the result. And the end result is that, design, engineering, production, quality, purchasing can all have up-to-date information that they need when they need it at their fingertips in a simple, very easy to use UI without having to dig for information. All right. So these are some of the frequently asked questions that we get when it comes to FAIR. So the first one here is, do you use, OCR or, optical character recognition, right, to read, PDFs of drawings, for example. And in our case, we do not do that, right? And the reason is that, differences or variability in, drawing, formatting, dimension, GD&T, and note formatting, for example, right, makes global OCR, number one, it's not really that quick, right, and it's not as robust of a solution, right? Sometimes it interprets things incorrectly, right? And so what we chose to do is to read directly from the Creo model through Creo APIs, right? And so we find that this gets us very quick and accurate, and robust data, where we grab all the dimensions, all the drawing text, everything quickly, and we're not having to, for example, draw a localized box around a particular dimension or call out in order to then interpret that into an FAI. The next question here is, How easy is it to use? It's incredibly easy. Just really, a couple hours of training is all you need to get started. And this is a tool that, could live in engineering, right? You can have a design engineer that already uses Creo, use this tool. Or this is, a tool that you could have a quality inspector run as well, right? And again, with, less than a couple hours of training, right? Like even the quality inspector can be able to use Creo and run with it and use this tool. It's that simple. Yeah. Another question we often get is, does it require a license of Creo to run? And yep, the answer to that is yes, right? But again, you could use, the cheapest base license of Creo, right? It does not require any more advanced functionality in Creo beyond just a bare bones basic license, right, from Creo. Next question we often get is that, can you update the FAI report from Creo once a new revision is released? And the answer to that is yes, right? So if there's a new revision, we can easily, balloon it, right? Maintaining existing balloon numbers, right? And adding balloon tags where necessary as well. And then next question here, it says, can you do assemblies and multi-sheet drawings? And the answer to that is a resounding yes, right? So again, like I showed earlier, it keeps track of what drawing sheet you're on. And so yes, we could have assembly drawings and also multi-sheet drawings where the assembly drawing is on sheet number 1, and if there's 100 different components, there are on sheets 2 to 101, each of those sheets with their individual drawings. We can grab all that data from all those drawings, for example. All those sheets, I should say. And then finally, what version of Creo do you currently support? And I'd say right now we currently support up to Creo 10 with imminent support for Creo 11, coming shortly. And so generally speaking, we like to say that we stay, a couple months behind the latest Creo release, right? Just to ensure that Creo software release is stable and any bug fixes or any bugs from Creo specifically have been kind of worked out in the newest release, and then we go ahead and release a new version of FAIR for that, right? But generally speaking, yeah, we are up to date, with almost up to date with the latest Creo release. All right, so that's it for general frequently asked questions we oftentimes get from customers. But at this point, we'll open it up. If you have any additional questions beyond these that you want to ask, by all means, type them into the Q&A portion of the screen, and we'll go ahead and make sure we get to them right now. Oh, let's see here. Yeah. Someone already asked a question of what versions of Creo does FAIR work with, which I think I already answered that as part of the FAQs there. We work with currently Creo 10 and older with support imminent for Creo 11. And I'd say all that, and I should also mention, as of this, as of the date of this recording, the most recent Creo version released is Creo 11, right? And so if you're looking at this webinar into the future, yeah, there may be more Creo releases, and again, we will go ahead and support those as they're released as well. Okay. So those are all the questions that we got in, and again, we have time to cover so far. And so we'll go ahead and end the webinar today. I would love to say, yeah, thank you so much for joining us in today's webinar. If you have any questions, you can always email me or give me a call. My contact information is on the screen. And if you have any sales related questions on the cost and how we can go ahead and implement this at your organization, go ahead and ping us as well, and we're more than happy to get you that information. Thank you so much for attending the webinar, and and go ahead and end the webinar right now, and we'll see you on a future edition of ETRAGE webinars.